Welcome! Today we're going to have a look at the JetKVM. This arrived on my desk. I'm not one for just reviewing products that just turn up, but this caught my eye and it seems quite interesting. So what is a KVM? Well, KVM stands for keyboard, video and mouse. There's various types of KVM switches. You can get local ones which allow you to basically use one keyboard, one mouse and one monitor between multiple computers that you have sat on your desk. However, this is a remote solution. The idea behind it is you can plug it into a server, for example. Many servers have IPMI or remote tools built in for remote management. But if you've got a custom hardware, commodity hardware, and you need some way of controlling it and it doesn't support remote access, then you can plug in this JetKVM and it will basically emulate a keyboard, emulate a mouse, emulate a video, and you can connect to it over a network and control it via a web browser. So you can probably see why it caught my eye and why I'm keen to take a look at it. I should point out before you go any further that the JetKVM was recently a Kickstarter project. If we switch over to the Kickstarter, this project was successfully funded on December the 3rd, but you can still late pledge for available rewards, which are basically the JetKVM, which is $69. You can see it's got almost 20,000 backers, and it's more than hit its target. Onto the video.
Sheridan Computers, IT, Communications, Support.
So this is how it arrived, and I'm quite impressed that considering this is a Kickstarter project, it's well packaged. It looks quite nice, so it's always good to see things well packaged. Open up and see what's inside. Okay, so we've got a nice little tag to pull out. That is small. You can see the size of that. As you can see, we've got plastic around it to protect it. If I take this off, this is a touchscreen display, I believe. Let me just try and get this off. So it's quite well protected out of the box. It seems to be a brush aluminium. There's a bit of weight in it. It's not like overly heavy, but yeah, that is a very, very small device. So what else do we have in the box? There's a getting started, which is obviously got a QR code on it, which will just take you to jetkvm.com/getting started. Let's have a look what's in here. Some cables. Okay, so we have a USB power splitter, a USB-C. So one of these connects to the USB, and the other one is for power. I'll go into that in a minute. We've got a USB-A to USB-C cable, because on this we've only got a USB-C connection. I'll go through the connections in a minute. And we have a HDMI to mini HDMI. Again, I'll go over them in a second. So we get all the cables that are needed. So looking at the device itself, we have the touch screen. Let's say it's quite nicely done. Port wise, so we have mini HDMI. So if you're going to plug this into a PC that has HDMI, you're going to need the mini HDMI to the HDMI adapter, which it does come with. We have the network port. So that's basically you plug into your switch so you can access this. When you do, it will power up and automatically get an IP address. We have an RJ11 port. Now this is the expansion port, and what this does is allow you to plug in things like remote power. So we can use power on, power off. There's a DC option for it as well, in case you're using devices such as little mini PCs. We've got the USB-C and the HDMI. So this USB-C, we have this splitter. We only have one USB port on it, and it splits off, as I say, so you can see these are labelled. This one showing USB and this one showing power. Now, not all devices power the USB ports when they switched off. So as mentioned, as it splits off, not all devices, computers and motherboards provide power to the USB ports when they switched off. And if that's the case and you come across that scenario, then you'll need this. And what you do is basically plug the USB-C data connection in, and then you'll use an external power source, so USB-C power, to power the device up so it stays powered up when the device is switched off. Obviously, you're not going to be able to use any wake on LAN features or things like that if the device is if this is switched off and you can't access it. With that, let's head over to the website. Heading over to jetkvm.com, we go to the documentation, and the documentation on their website is quite nice. Key features. So JetKVM is a high-performance open-source KVM over IP, so keyboard, video, mouse solution designed for efficient remote management of computers, servers and workstations. Whether you're dealing with boot failures, installing a new operating system, adjusting BIOS settings, or simply taking control of a machine from afar, JetKVM provides a tool to get it done effectively. So we will power this up and take a look. Under key features, ultra-low latency, so 1080p at 60 frames a second with 30 to 60 millisecond latency using the H.264 encoding. So that provides smooth mouse keyboard interaction for a responsive remote control. Free and optional remote access, remote management via JetKVM Cloud using WebRTC. So I'll go into that a little bit later as well. Facts, let's go straight into that. how do I power on the device? Power options. So the primary power method, the most common way to power the JetKVM is through its USB-C port connected directly to the computer you're controlling. Many computers have USB ports with constant power, as I mentioned this. In some cases, you may need to enable it in the BIOS or UEFI settings, often labelled as USB power during standby or USB always on. So be sure to check that if it's not working by default. And as I said, in fact, we're going to cover this here. So while USB power is convenient, we understand that this might not be possible for every situation. Here are several other ways to power your KVM. So the USB-C power data splitter. So the JetKVM comes with a USB-C wide cable splitter that separates power and data connections. This allows you to connect one cable to your remote host for data transmission while powering the device through a separate 5-volt power supply, such as a phone charger. It's not included, but you do have the cable. The solution is perfect when your host computer doesn't provide constant USB power or when you need more reliable power source. The DC extension, as I mentioned, if you're using more common with mini PCs. So for more complex setups, the DC extension option offers dual functionality. Not only will it control the power supply to another computer, but it also supplies a JetKVM with 5 volts through the RJ11 cable. This integrated approach simplifies cable management and is particularly useful in scenarios where using DC extension. Now, I don't know if these are available yet, but using the RJ11 port, we can provide power to them devices. ATX board extension. So if you're integrating the JetKVM into a desktop computer setup, you can utilize either the USB-C port or the internal pin header on the ATX board. This method supplies 5 volts to the JetKVM via the RJ11 cable. It's ideal for permanent installations inside a computer case. That would mean, obviously, if you needed to power external power control, you'd need to stick this into a computer, and using the RJ11 expansion port and the headers that come, plug it to your motherboard. I'd prefer to use Wacom LAN for this, to be honest. Diving back to the facts, so we've looked at the FAQ, we've looked at how do I power the device. Is there or will be a PoE version? So you can't power this device up via PoE, via the RJ45 port. So the current JetKVM device does not accept power over Ethernet, though you may be able to use a USB-C PoE splitter cable or a PoE extension board. PoE capable version of the JetKVM is on the roadmap, which is good. So does it come with Tailscale? The device doesn't come with Tailscale pre-installed, but it should be able to install, and I'll look at that further later. But it does have access to their cloud, which you can log in through your Google account, and then you can log into JetKVM and control the device that way. I understand some people don't want to do that, and they'd rather just host everything privately. Now, the software is open source, so I'm guessing a self-hosted solution might be available. So I'm not going to go into installing Tailscale on this device. If you really do want me to, mention it in the comments and I'll take a look at doing it. It's just a matter of SSHing in and installing it, to be honest, I'd imagine. So can I use the device without cloud features? So this is one of the important things for me. I don't like connecting things to the cloud unless I have to. So yes, the device is primarily designed to be accessed locally. The cloud access feature is entirely opt-in. So you plug it in, you get a network, you get an IP address, and you don't need to connect it to their cloud solution. If you're using a VPN, you can either access it over your local network. If it's remote, you can use a VPN. And they did mention Tailscale as an option there. So can I self-hold cloud features? Oh, here we go. Absolutely. The JetKVM project will be fully open sourced in the coming days. It is open source at the moment, I believe. I'll take a look in a second. The open source page for more information about that. Unexpected error. That's good. So I believe it is on GitHub. I'll check that out. But you'll be able to run the device, use a registry service yourself. It's a simple Node.js Express-based service. JetKVM uses WebRTC for video streaming control, and Turn is used to make it possible over the internet behind NAT and firewalls. Does it work with KVM switches? KVM switches haven't been tested yet, but there's no outstanding reason why they won't work. We'll update this page as the community testing against their switches. Does it work with whatever device? So it works independently of the operating system, meaning it doesn't interact directly with the operating system. It works by connecting through HDMI for video and for USB mouse and keyboard input, making it compatible with any system that supports these interfaces. So yes, it's fully compatible with that device. On that note, so because this device does emulate the display, the keyboard and the mouse, you could run into issues with some systems. I believe some Dell systems, some devices don't like combined USB devices such as mouse and keyboard on one port. So that's something to be aware of. So it might not necessarily be 100%. So does the interface work on mobile? Yes, the web interface is written in React and works well on mobile devices, so it is mobile friendly. Again, we can have a look at that. You'll be able to use JetKVM's built-in virtual keyboard to control your computer. Not sure how well that would work on a mobile phone. So it's only available in English. So JetKVM controlling power to the computer. So as I mentioned, this is the way I do it, wake on LAN. If your computer is on the same subnet, JetKVM can send a wake on LAN magic packet to power it up. But the computer must support wake on LAN, and generally you'd have to enable that in the BIOS. The DC extension board, as I mentioned, plugs into the RJ11 expansion socket on here, and that can control power flow to a computer that has a DC input, such as many mini PCs. ATX extension board, as we mentioned previously, is now you can plug it into the RJ11 port, maybe embed this device in the computer, and then you could access it that way. It does say more to come. The extension port on the JetKVM allows the community to create their own novel ways of controlling power to target, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on what happens here. Now, as mentioned, it is a Kickstarter, so will you be able to handle demand? They are saying yes. Batch production has been happening throughout November 24, and we've secured the components needed to meet projected order volume. So I'll look at the Kickstart page in a second. Peripheral devices. Mount drive. So the mount drive feature allows the JetKVM to emulate a read-only virtual CD or DVD or disk drive. So by using this device, you can basically mount Windows ISOs, Linux ISOs, whatever you need to do, and it supports ISO, image, QCAL2, WDI and VMDK, and the system provides two drive modes, CD, DVD mode and a disk drive mode. So it's important to note that only one drive can be mounted at a time, and the drive mode must be set before mounting. So mount drive methods. Storage mount allows you to mount images that you've previously uploaded to the JetKVM to the remote host, and that's going to be the fastest way. URL mount. You can mount an image from a URL. That's a great feature if you're in an emergency and you need to mount an ISO that way. But I'd probably recommend that you upload the images to the JetKVM first rather than mounting them over the internet, because that's just going to run slow. Browser mount. I've no idea what this is. Browser mount streams the image in real time using WebRTC from the browser to the target host through JetKVM. So when the target host performs a file block read, JetKVM forwards a request over WebRTC to the client's local system. Oh, okay. So there's a browser mount option as well, so you can mount the ISO or the image on your machine, and then over the internet remotely mount it onto the JetKVM. USB modes. JetKVM offers two distinct modes for mounting images on a target host: CD, DVD and disk mode. Choosing the right mode is key to ensuring compatibility. We've done CD, DVD mode. Disk mode, obviously that's just the CD, DVD mode, just emulates a DVD, so if you go into your BIOS and choose a boot option, you can do it that way. And then they have disk mode, where the mounted image is emulated as a virtual USB disk instead of the CD/DVD drive. And that's best suited for modern boot methods, so and large images. So it supports images larger than 2.2 gig, which obviously you can't do with the CD. Keyboard and mouse. So it supports paste from host feature, allowing you to paste text from your host onto the JetKVM and subsequently onto the computer that it's plugged into. Now the way that you do that is when you paste into here, it's going to emulate the keystrokes. So if you paste large amounts of text, it could take a while for it to appear. So the JetKVM supports only US keyboard layout, and the host key map defaults to the US settings. So that could be important if you're using like for me in the UK, I'm imagining the speech marks and the @ sign are going to be reversed. So you keep that in mind when you're pasting things in. And it does support a virtual keyboard, so we'll take a look at that as well. The extension port, as I mentioned, is RJ11. We've covered this: ATX power, DC power control, serial console, so direct access to the device serial console for debugging and low-level control, and then they're going to be able to customize the extension port with like temperature sensors, mechanical button pressers, and because it's open source, you're going to be able to build your own extensions. And we've got the extension layout there, RJ11 port layout. We've covered power options. Let's take a look at local access. So local access. To access the KVM web UI, you'll need this device's IP address. So when we plug the device in, the IP address will appear on the front and we can just navigate to that with a browser. So local authentication is a default mode, so you can set a password protect. I generally recommend that you password protect this thing. So if you choose not to password protect, anyone on the local network who knows its IP address which obviously isn't hard to find, we'll be able to access the web UI and hence whatever it's plugged into. So you can enable password protection, update password, delete password. You can reset the password. There's 2 ways to reset it. It does have a developer mode. So if you have developer mode enabled, you can reset the password via SSH. When you enable SSH, you need to put in an SSH key rather than a password. It shows you how to delete the config. If you do not have developer mode enabled, you can reset your password by performing a factory reset. So to do this, follow the steps outlined in the factory reset guide. I'm going to have a quick look at that. So to reset the device, you will use the DFU mode, which allows you to flash the firmware directly to the KVM instead of compiling custom firmware. You'll download the latest firmware from JetKVM GitHub, and to enter the developer mode, unplug the USB cable, locate the small hole on the right hand side of the device. There's a small hole there if you can see it. So insert a paperclip, needle or whatever in there, hold it for 3 seconds, then release and your device will go into DFU mode. And then we've got the instructions on flashing the latest firmware, so it obviously does support updates. Remote access. So remote access allows you to control it anywhere on the internet. So you can use the JetKVM device locally, so you can just plug it into the network and then use the VPN, Tailscale, WireGuard, whatever you need to use. Or you can enable the cloud, and it shows you how it works. I'm using Cloudflare to do that. And then the last feature, there's a few. Wake on LAN. So with the JetKVM, you can easily send a magic packet to any device on your LAN from the web interface. So just enter the MAC address of the computer. So that feature is available for both local and remote. So you can wake up any device on the LAN, whether it's locally or remotely. Again, target computer must be configured to listen to incoming packets, so it must be enabled in the BIOS, and this motherboard must support Wake on LAN. Video quality, we've got high, medium and low, allowing you to adjust the video bitrate based on your connection and speeds. High quality delivers video for fast connections, medium balances between performance and visual, and then low, you'll probably get a poor display output, but it'll work over low connection speeds. So the system does automatically calculate the optimal bitrate for each setting, ensuring smooth performance during remote sessions with a minimum bitrate of 100 kbps supported. So HDMI EDID, which is extended display identification data, is the information about the monitor, and that can be changed within the settings as well. So we've got factory reset, developing, so you can put it in developer mode, do your own stuff, which is the page that we've looked at. Over the air updates can be done by the web interface, I assume, and they made a 3D model of the JetKVM device available for use. So the other thing that I want to touch on is, obviously we've got one HDMI port, so if you're going to plug the HDMI output from a server into this, then you're not going to be able to plug a monitor in as well to have a local monitor and this, unless you use some type of splitter. With that, let's power it up and jump into it and see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and plug the RJ45 connector in, then we'll go ahead and power it up. So we've got the JetKVM logo, it turns around so you can see it. And straight away, it has picked an IP address up, 10.1.10.117. USB showing disconnected, and so is HDMI. And it's showing 0 active for the cloud. So this is touchscreen, I believe. Yeah. So we can see the device ID, cloud ID, can go into about, and show the version. And that's basically the only options we have from there. And so it is powered up, so let's log into the web interface and take a look what we've got. So 10.1.10.117. Putting the IP address in. So I put 10.1.10.117 into the browser, and this is the page that we get presented with. So we've got setup KVM. Keep in mind, I haven't done this before, so I'm going to do no password. I wouldn't recommend you do this. I'm just doing it for this video. So no HDMI signal detected. That's fine. We're showing that the HDMI device, the Jet device is connected. USB connection stats. We've got the connection status. We can do full screen and escape to get out of it. I know there's no device connected. I'm going to do that in a second. Just to have a look at some of the settings we've got. So we've got paste text, so we can copy text to our clipboard and paste it. Virtual media, nothing. We can add new media. We've got browser mount, so coming soon. URL mount, coming soon. And the Jet storage mount. So this is the one that you're generally going to want to go with. And this is showing 5.92 gig free, so it's got 6 gig. This might actually have more. It might just want a factory reset. We've got Wake on LAN, so if we go into Wake on LAN, this is kind of nice that you don't have to remember MAC addresses. We can add device, give it a device name, and then put the MAC address in so we don't have to remember them, so we can just select the device from the Wake on LAN. I generally do that from the router or something anyway, as opposed to using this, but it's nice that it's got that option. We've got virtual keyboard, which we can detach, move around. Just hide that, let's attach it again. Let's take a look at the settings. You can see we've got app 034 and system 0118, so we'll do a check for updates. And we've got an update, system 0.2.0, so yeah, we'll do that. So the update is done, and it's rebooting. And we can see the device, reboot him. We can see the device has been updated to the latest version. Enjoy the new features and improvements. Would have been nice if it had popped up and told me what they were. Dive back into the settings and see what else we had. So it's loading current versions. Come on. So mouse, customize the mouse behavior so we can hide the cursor. I'll explain about that in a minute, but obviously when you're going to be able to see both the cursor on your local computer and the remote computer. Jiggler prevents sleep mode, so it's kind of like keeping the system awake, prevent it going into sleep by moving the mouse. Mouse input mode, absolute and relative. We've only got absolute available at the moment. Relative is coming soon. Video display, so configure the settings for EDID for optimal compatibility. So stream quality, this is where you can adjust the stream quality depending on your bandwidth and what the display shows us. So JetKVM default, Asus, Dell custom, and allows you to upload a EDID file. Cloud, so adopt to KVM Cloud. I might take a look at that in a bit. So local access, authentication mode, no password. So this is where you can set the password if you haven't already done it. Updates, so manage software updates and version, auto update, dev channel updates. I'm going to enable it actually. Advanced, we've got developer mode, so you can turn developer mode on here. We've got troubleshooting, diagnostic tools and additional controls for troubleshooting and development purposes. This hasn't auto-updated. Oh, we've got another update available. This is probably because I enabled the development channel. And again, it's going to reboot. As you can see, it's now initializing. We're back on. Okay, actually, I can see the difference there straight away. We've gone into dark mode. Hey, this is better already. Back into settings. I think we've covered everything unless anything else has appeared. Appearance, customize look and feel of the application. So yeah, we've now got theme options. So we've got system, which will go based off your system, and then you've got light, dark, advanced settings. I do like that dark mode's been enabled. We've still got relative coming soon for mouse modes. Let's do another check for updates. Let's see if we're out. No, we're good. We might as well connect a system to this and see what happens next. So I'm going to try this. I've got an old system here. Look at the back of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have... This is a question that we can answer while we're here. I do have a VGA to HDMI, and I think it's the right way around. So this will see if this works with the KVM as well. I have no idea what's going to happen here. So I'm going to plug this into the port. I'm going to want some power. From there, we're going to need a USB input. So we'll take the data side of the USB-C connection, and I'm going to plug that into the USB port on this Dell. This isn't connected to a network, by the way, this Dell. Have I not plugged something in? Oh. So now it is actually showing. So it is actually now showing that the HDMI is connected and the USB is connected. And straight away you can see that we've got this system up. Can I get into the BIOS? I have sending F2, but it's not doing nothing. As I did mention, some systems don't like... This is a Dell, and Dell is what I'm on about. Some systems don't like combined keyboard and mouse. Let's see if the virtual keyboard works. No. So we've got a display, but it's not working because it doesn't like the combined thing. Try rebooting that, see if it makes a difference. So I'm sending F2, but it's not doing anything. So that isn't working for me. You can see at the bottom here, it is sending F5. We try a different USB port in case it's me. That's not going to work. Okay, so that's our first failure. That could be a BIOS setting. I'll see if I can... Okay, I've plugged the actual keyboard in. So you can see the display works fine with the adapter that we're using. So if you do have a system that has VGA on it, then using a VGA to HDMI adapter absolutely does work. And this isn't necessarily an issue with the JetKVM. As I say, some devices just don't like. I don't think there's anything I can set in this. Yeah, it's not going to work. So unfortunately, it's not going to work with this Dell OptiPlex. In all fairness, this Dell OptiPlex is donkey's years old. So it is complaining, keyboard not found, and please connect a USB keyboard to a USB port on the computer. That was one of the scenarios we're saying devices like this might not work. Let me try a different system. Okay, I give that up as a bad job. So it ain't going to work with that Dell system, so it's just one thing to be aware of. As I say, some things don't like it. So this time round, we're going to try it with this HP EliteDesk. So HP are a bit more forgiving. Again, we don't have HDMI on this, but we do have VGA and DisplayPort. Unfortunately, I can't use the DisplayPort because I'd need a HDMI to mini HDMI or display to mini HDMI cable, so it's something else that you should be aware of. Let's hook this up, see where we get. So because I'm using a VGA to HDMI and this computer doesn't provide USB power at all times, obviously I'm not going to get any display output until the machine started. So if you're going to use one of these, keep that in mind because it takes USB power, so you might need to plug it into something else. And we'll see how far we get now. Let me power it up. Oh, there we go. We've still got the display, even though we're not using... So another thing that I've noticed on here is if the computer locks up or anything, you've got no way of rebooting it. Right, okay. So because we've not got the any expansions through the RJ11 port, I've actually got no way forcing this machine to reboot. So I'm going to go virtual keyboard. I'm going to do a Control-Delete to reboot. So I'd be expecting to get a boot screen here where I could choose... There we go. So at least I can get into the BIOS. Okay, F9 gives us the boot menu. So you're better off using this with a system that actually supports HDMI rather than using adapters. Let's say you're going to have all sorts of weird issues. But you can see we've got JetKVM Virtual Media. So I'll go into Virtual Media, add new media. I'm going to download one, so I'm going to get this FreeBSD memstick image, see if that works. Okay, let's see if I can upload that FreeBSD image. So select image file, and now it's uploading. Okay, so that's been uploaded. I want to mount it as... So, CD, DVD, I can't mount it as disk. So that ain't going to work. Now remember, this is still in, it says coming soon, so this is still a Kickstarter project, so we are expecting a couple of issues. This should be resolved by the time they're actually released. Okay, let's do this a different way. That's just my display adapter, ignore that. So I'm going to unmount that. I'm going to add new media. We're going to go storage mount, continue. I want to delete that. I'm going to upload a new image, but first I'm going to need to download one, so I'll get FreeBSD ISO. Let's try and upload that one. That's uploaded successfully, so now I want to mount this. I'm going to mount the CD. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me power this back up. The struggle is real. Okay, we've got FreeBSD installer, so we can full screen this. Install, let's do United Kingdom. And there we have the FreeBSD startup menu. The JetKVM is working fine. And that's working absolutely fine. Okay, let's try it on another system. This system should have Windows running it. So it's saying no keyboard detected there. So we couldn't actually get into the BIOS. So this is still a fairly old system as well. Just trying it with Windows. Yeah, this is pretty snappy. So the interface is fairly responsive. Now you can see the mouse trails there. So obviously the one that's moving at front is the mouse pointer on my system. That's what this option here does. So now I can only see one. I might actually prefer that on. At least I can see where both mice are. Yeah, that works quite well. Voice meet banana. So I couldn't get into the BIOS on that. This time we're going to try it with another Dell system. I didn't want to just rule out Dell, saying it doesn't work with any Dell. So this is a slightly more modern Dell system. So now in this occasion, the keyboard and mouse is working just fine. So it's not just Dells that cause a problem. It's literally worth trying with different systems. So this should boot into Windows. And there we go, it's up booted. So that system works absolutely fine. Okay, the last thing that I said I was going to do, I'm going to try and SSH into the device and see if that works. What we need to do is the settings, under advanced near the bottom, we have developer mode. Now, if we enable developer mode, that allows us to, it enables the SSH server, but we need a public key. And I don't know if I have one, cat.ssh ID. No, I haven't. So I'm going to go ahead and create one. Keygen -t RSA, SSH keygen -t RSA. It's a bit bigger so you can see it. So we're generating private key pair. I don't want a passphrase. So in order to SSH in, it doesn't support SSH with password, so you need a public key. What we're going to do is cat.ssh ID underscore RSA.pub and get our public key. Copy that, and we need to paste it in here. Update SSH key. I think we should be able to log in at that. So we're going to do SSH -i to specify the key file, and I want SSH ID underscore RSA. So we're not using the pub, we need the private key, so it's just ID underscore RSA. And I'm going to do root because the default user is root, as it says here. So SSH root at 10.1.10.117. Accept that, and we're in. Once you're in, there's not much we can do just off the bat because it's running BusyBox, and we don't have any apt-get apt commands or anything like that available. And if you look at this, it says JetKVM is built with developer in mind. Developer mode unlocks SSH, which is what we've just done, allows you to customize or modify the system. So you must provide an SSH key, as I've just shown how to do that. Once enabled, you can SSH into the device and explore the system and run your own apps. So the system runs on a lightweight Linux environment, which is BusyBox, as a core user space, and Dropbar as SSH. I think I've covered pretty much most of what we can do on here. Let me get out of this. This is a really neat little device, and I think it has lots of potential. The size of it, so if you can remember what floppy disks are, it's much, much smaller than a floppy disk. But the fact that, let's say, it's still in development, much of the features have not yet been added, and I'm really keen to see the outcome of this. As I say, it is open source. So if you head over to GitHub, github.com/JetKVM, the website source is there. The KVM source itself is there. So obviously this is open to modifications, and I'm sure there'll be a lot coming out on it. And even the cloud API code is there as well. So, yep, really keen to see the outcome of this. If you're interested in looking at the Kickstarter, if we go over to jetkvm.com, the link's below. They've got their own Discord, so you can join the Discord and ask any questions that you may have. The documentation's on there. The contact information, a link to the cloud dashboard, and the Kickstarter, so you can go to the Kickstarter. This is it's got nearly 20,000 backers. It looks like quite an amazing little project. The fact that it's $69, or like £55, but as I say, you'll have to pay the shipping if they're in the UK. The potential behind this, I think it is a game changer. The Kickstarter is complete, it's fully funded, but you can still back the project and you can still grab these from the Kickstarter, or you can wait until they become fully available. I hope this video was insightful. It's certainly an interesting project. As I say, I'm keen to see it when it actually launches, so I will be keeping an eye out, and any updates to the firmware and things like that, if it's worth doing a video on, I will do. The one thing I haven't covered in this video is the cloud remote access. As I say, I don't use it. I'd use a VPN or something like that. It does use a Google account to log in. It seems secure. There's plenty of other YouTube videos covering that, so I'm not going to go over that as well. I hope this was a little bit different to the other videos. Thanks for watching.